Okay. Well, now I'm talking to you through video because we couldn't pull this up in the Mark Center. And that doesn't mean you can't get to ChatGPT. You can, for most organizations, still use ChatGPT in an unclassified non-CUI capability. Lots of different ways in which you can do that. We can talk about that, not on this video, because I'm kind of rushed for time for this recording. But I just want to go over the basics of ChatGPT, and then we'll do a quick demo, and then we'll talk about it in person. Okay. First thing I want you to notice is that ChatGPT is a platform. It's not a model, right? The models themselves are GPT 4.0, o3, o4 mini, o4 mini high, and then some of the new models that are coming out that they're trying, like 4.5, 4.1, right? So these are models that are out there for you to choose through the interface of ChatGPT. I typically use 4.0 for almost everything. O3 works well if you've got some stuff that's more advanced mathematics or something like that. So that's the model. So you've chosen the model. This is the way to add files or photos. This is where that RAG comes into play, that retrieval augmented generation, right? Which is telling the model, hey, look at this. When you answer me, don't just rely on your internet training. Then you have tools. So you can automatically ask it to generate an image, to search the web, write code, or run deep research. Most of these things it can figure out on its own. If you just say, like, create an image or draw me an image or make me an image, go search the web or go search the internet, it'll pick that up. The one thing I'll say is different is deep research. I do like to use that automatic button to conduct deep research because it'll allow you to pick the sources, right? So you can actually pull in sources from information that you have or tell it to use the web. Other platforms, deep research, if we get to demo those, you can say things like use academic only and stuff like that. But that's just one of the options there. Um, Here you have the ability to dictate. So this is not where you're going to use the audio to interact with the AI. This is where you're just going to, just like on your phone, where you're telling it what you want to type, and then you're just doing a text query. This little play symbol looking thing here, or audio wave symbol, is the voice mode. So that's where you can actually interact with it through audio, where you can say, hey, what I'd like you to do is write me a CPARS narrative for the service contract. Here's what I experienced. Can you do that for me? And it'll do it. And it'll also play it back to you, speak it back to you, but it'll also generate it in text. So that's there as well. Within the tool itself, you can generate things like tasks. And with tasks, you can set ChatGPT up to do something for you in a web search capacity every day, every week, etc. So if you look at this one is generating or going off and finding news articles on AI, giving them a quick header, summarizing them so I know if I want to read them, and then giving me a link so that I can launch to that article to go read it. Also within tasks, you have the ability to set up when it occurs. So like this DoD news is every day at 7 a.m. I'm going to get that news. And that's, I've defined for it what that is, which is the top 3 news articles related to the Department of Defense, ranked by reach and relevance. Send me a summary of each article along with why it matters. And I could also add here something along the lines of also include the URL link. All right, so that I can always go back to that. So now it's saved to do that. So tomorrow when I get my news, it'll do that. You can customize how ChatGPT interacts with you, right? So you can tell it what to call you. I haven't done that. Tell it what you do, so it kind of understands that. I didn't actually tell it to not sugarcoat responses and be forward thinking. I think it generated that once they brought this capability in more detail based on what I'd done historically. I did tell it to do these things, which make its output sound less AI-ish, which is don't use the word delve. Moreover, this paper aims or our aim, and try. I said never use M dashes. It still occasionally pulls them in, but these are just those telltale signs of AI generated text that I try to remove because I might want to use this stuff in something that I'm publishing or producing. I always disclose that I edited or used AI to do it, but I still like to remove those markers because a lot of people don't like to see it. It's off-putting. You have some of the settings, you can personalize this to the things that you need. So we won't go through all those details just because we'll run out of time. The other thing I wanted to show you quickly is the idea of a custom GPT. So your custom GPTs are GPTs in which instead of just doing a RAG file where you drop in a document, let's say you wanted to use a source selection guide or something like that that's particular to what you all do at WHS, you could actually build a GPT that's just focused on that. And so you don't have to keep dropping that file in every time and hoping that it picks up on the same stuff. So you can go to, creating your own just custom GPTs. And I have them for everything like the 809 panel, one to help my son practice for Fire Academy, and some of these other things. And they're all just built based on this knowledge in the background that I ask it to work off of. So for instance, let's look at the OMB policy um, analyzer. If I go to that one, this one has been trained on the dash 21 and dash 22 OMB policy letters that we just discussed at the beginning of this lecture, whatever you want to call it. Right. So I can do things like use these quick requests to say, summarize the AI governance expectations of this memo. Right. And what's really cool, I forgot I did this, but I actually set this up as a demo for another group to talk to me like Christopher Walken. So now it answers everything like Christopher Walken. But because I don't want it to do that all the time, we're going to go back and actually fix that, which is a great use of showing you how you configure these custom GPTs. So we're going to edit that. And then when you go into edit mode or you go into build mode, you get these two windows. One is the creation side and one is the preview. So this is what it's going to look like based on what you've done over here. And the creation is just a quick text window where you can just chat with it. What it's doing in the background is it's creating this configuration, giving it a name, quick description, drafting its own instructions for itself, and then it's creating these conversation starters and maintaining its knowledge files. And the knowledge files in this case are both the OMB memos. I also, it comes with web search and Canvas, which is its ability to code, automatically clicked. It typically automatically clicks the image generation tool, but I don't really need it to generate images. And then you typically have to pick this yourself, which is, do you want it to be able to analyze data like CSV files? And I said, yes, I do. I do that with all mine because I never know when I might want to throw in a CSV file to augment what I'm doing. But that's there. That's how the configuration is. If I want to get rid of this Christopher Walken thing, I can go in here and just directly delete it. But sometimes it's easier just to say, can we remove the Christopher Walken response style and use a professional staffer style? And so now it's going to update itself. And so now it should have done that. We'll go to our configuration and actually see what it's done. And now it's changed the name to say it looks at these memos with a professional federal policy lens, right? So it's changed that. It got rid of what used to talk here about Christopher Walken's style and says, I'm going to use the tone and style needed for a professional policy staffer, clear, concise, respectful, and neutral without theoretical or stylized responses. So that's really good. Whenever you go to save these to update, it will give you three options when you do your initial save. And that is anyone with the link is what I selected, but you had two other options when you first generate one of these. One is to keep it private where it's just for you to use and no one else. And the other is to launch it to the GPT store where everyone can use it. I like to tell people to avoid that because it's easy for people to copy the likeness of these and give them the same name, but they won't operate the same way. The only way you can tell the difference is that the author name will change. So if you ever are pointed to a tool by a GPT builder, you just need to know that you need to look for their actual name there. Then you can copy the link and launch to it, or you can just hit view and go out and start exploring it. And you can do a whole host of things, which is like, if I was running contracting for White House services, what should I be thinking about as a senior leader given these two memos from OMB on AI, right? Something very basic. But you can start querying these specifically, and you don't have to worry about whether or not it's got the most up-to-date search capability, or if it has in its training the most up-to-date information on these memos, because maybe they came up after its last training. It'll just go directly to the memos and review them through RAG, right? And so it's starting to tell you about these different priorities, robust governance, tailoring contracting processes, just a whole host of things that you can look at. So that's the custom GPT side. There's so many more things we can do with like CPARs, and I can talk to you about it in person when we're there. The other cool thing that I like to do and to show people that's really neat is you can ask it to say, please generate a CSV file of contract data observations. It's 200 and include contract number, date, units, unit price, location, delivery date, expected, delivery date, actual, delivery delta, expected minus actual, and performance score. And use CPARs ratings. All right, so we're going to do that. And what's cool is that it can actually generate this data file for us. Now, you can imagine, if we get, and we will be getting eventually ChatGPT for government, or you'll get tools that have similar capabilities that can handle CUI data, maybe ProPen eventually. Imagine that you can dump that data in here and start manipulating it and looking for patterns. That's what we're going to do with this example data. So if we pull this up, we can look at it and see like what kind of data did it actually build for us. Right? Oh, I want to actually open that data file. There we go. So it's going to pop it open. We just want to verify that it kind of looks like contract data. Again, looks like CPAR's scores are correct. Delivery deltas are calculated correctly. Yep. And then date of the contract. This is not a real contract number. We'd have to tell it what that should look like. Just made up locations. Okay, looks like something we can play with. Now what you could do, like imagine this is like your real contract data, and you can say, great, can you look for interesting patterns, correlations that would help us better manage or target areas for improvement, describe them, and then visualize them for decision makers. All right, don't worry about typos. I'm typing really fast, but it can pick up based on the way it tokenizes. It can pick up what the actual word is you meant, even if I wrote improvement versus improvement. So it's going to try to do that. It's looking through that same CSV file that we just created. Normally, if you were bringing an external file, you'd have to drop it in with the plus symbol here. But it's brought in the data. So now you can see that it sucked the data in. It's created a heat map of correlations. It's looked at average delivery date delta by performance score. Didn't tell it to do that. It just found an interesting pattern. It scatter plotted delivery date and units, average unit price by performance score, all these, and now it's started to like mention patterns, right? Which is contracts rated as exceptional, very good, have smaller delivery deltas. Marginal unsatisfactory scores are associated with higher positive delivery deltas indicating delays. This suggests delivery timelines strong with performance perception. Wow. Amazing, right? But now imagine that this is like more complex things and has a more complex data set with more information. You can start to look for those patterns as well. So again, I can't keep going into a ton of detail just because we're going to be time bound, and I really wish we could sit here and play with it on the computers. I'll always make myself open to any of you if you need that. So with that, I'll stop the video and we'll go back to talking in person.